green room for a second, and then we'll dive in.
Yes.
Eliot in Indy.
In
Fighting
Indy.
something? You doing all right?
I'm
Got a
not
little
sick.
cold?
I feel like I woke up like my body just
Congested?
doesn't. Yeah. Yeah. It just doesn't handle hotel air well. That's like the
Yeah,
best
I
way I
know
could
you've
put
talked
it.
about this. The dry air. This is
It
one of the
is.
dangers of your
Yeah. I'm
existence.
trying like a lot of time in a hotel recently, So,
I know. I know.
but it never stops. The grind never stops.
That's right.
I'm trying to blow my nose. It just isn't helping.
You sound great. Let's roll.
I go back and forth between sounding great and awful. So,
Yeah, it's fine. All right. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. It's a Super Bowl champion podcast, Ellie. Did you know that? Did you know that a few weeks ago the Eagles won the Super Bowl? I just want to make sure you know.
so I will say being down here, you're reminded of it quite a bit.
You're damn
But
right you are, buddy.
not by
Whenever
the
I
Eagles.
think of New Orleans, I think of them winning the Super Bowl. Whenever I hear like anything that sounds like super or bowl. So Zoe's like, can I have cereal? I'm like, sure. Pull out a bowl. I'm like, bowl, Super Bowl.
Wow.
Like
Look at you.
it is omnipresent in my mind, in my life, and I'm so happy about it. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. So,
which is an attitude you should have. I feel like
I
all
agree.
fans,
Let's revel,
yes,
man.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no point in trying to diminish fun. I feel like I always say that.
Totally. Everyone's like, oh, time to turn the page. I'm like, yeah, we can talk about what's coming up, but that doesn't mean we have to stop loving and enjoying the fact the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I will say, just to kind of dive right into it, like,
yes,
I was impressed yesterday. So we talked to Nick and Howie for a half hour off the podium. And then they talked for a half hour on the podium, and I'm sure you heard what they said on the podium. We put some.
We'll get into it for sure.
Yeah, but like there was a very, in my opinion, noticeable lack of like bringing up that they won the Super Bowl, and the only time it really was brought up and just like was if they were asked about it, but also like just in hey, we gotta work harder because we have a shorter off season, or we know we want to work harder. We're losing great players. We might lose great players, I should say, because we were a great team. There just wasn't a lot of like talking about the game really. So I don't know if that was intentional.
They've turned the page. I mean, we're seeing Jalen working out, Devontae, like all these guys have started working out already. They're ready to roll. And I think as a team, I get it why Nick and Howie have to turn the page. I'm just saying as fans, we don't have to turn the page.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
But the Eagles do. The Eagles do. I get it. Let's dive right into it, because you're in Indy. We don't have all the time in the world. You got a lot going on out there and all that stuff. But in terms of like let's get into Howie and Nick, because I think we'll get into the feel of Indy, what you're hearing. I know you always say, and I think it's a great point, that this is way more of a free agency event than a draft event with all the NFL people and agents and everyone kind of getting together. But let's start with Nick and Howie, because I think that's clearly the news of the day yesterday. I don't know if let's just start with your biggest takeaways, and then we'll get into some specific stuff. There's the Howie quote that we talked about on the morning show this morning. There's a lot to get into, but overall, hearing Howie and Nick speak, what was your main takeaway?
Yeah, so there was a couple. I would say the main one would probably just be like Howie setting the stage for what I think could be like a not super exciting offseason to start the year. Now, that being said, I think like this has been sticking in my mind the last 24 hours. So I remember vividly being at the combine the year before the 2021 NFL. No, it was 2022 NFL draft. So it was after Jalen's rookie year. When it was like Devontae.
Well, his second year technically, but his first year as a starter.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So, and if you remember, they had Devontae, but then they didn't have much else at receiver. And the team would when they talked, would basically swear up and down, we believe in Quez Watkins. Why would we acquire another receiver? Because look at all the touches. Like Miles Sanders is going to get touches. Dallas Goedert's going to get touches. Devontae's going to get touches. Like, why would we trade for another receiver? And then they traded for A.J. Brown. So, that's always the example for me of, like, what they say at the combine matters. And I think that they come here with a specific message, in my opinion, normally, of just wanting to lower expectations. Like, it doesn't benefit them to come to the combine and say, yeah, I think we're really in on Myles Garrett. Or, like, man, get ready, Eagles fans. It's going to be a wild free agency. They always try to temper expectations. So, that being said, that is what they did yesterday. And I think there is a little more reality to it this year, just because their cap space is a little tighter than it normally is. Now, I still am of the belief they can mostly end up doing whatever they want. That is just the reality when you have an owner with a big checkbook that cuts big checks. Like that just is what it is. But I think the messaging from them was pretty much like, hey, we have big free agents that we're probably going to lose. We don't know for sure, but like I got the sense they would be surprised if they bring back more than one free agent. I think maybe two. Um, but I also think like they are viewing this as a long off season. I mean, we do the Birds Town Hall every year at the start of free agency. Can't wait to do it. Hopefully my voice sounds better for that. But like I don't think it's going to be an exciting first day of free agency. And you guys can play this back when they go out and they, do whatever. But I think Howie's message was like, we're going to lose guys initially, but then there's the draft. There is like the third/second wave of free agency. There's trades and training camp. And then there is the trade deadline. And look, I think because of Howie's naturally aggressive nature, I don't think we're going to sit here for 4 or 5 months and be like, wow, they haven't done anything. But I think they know that because of the tight cap space and because they're going to lose free agents, that there will be a period, I would guess, where we're doing pods or fans are calling into the morning show and are saying, like, what is going on here? So I think there was a little bit of like setting expectations for what could be initially a rocky start to the offseason.
And I think it's even further. I agree with you. I think that's a good read on what how he said. Here's the quote that was talked about a lot. It said how he said, asking for patience from fans. He said it may look different. Some of the moves that we have to make here may not be what are necessarily on other people's minds. It's probably not going to look like maybe the conventional wisdom thinks it should. I would ask that our fans just have patience throughout the offseason. The offseason doesn't stop in free agency. The offseason doesn't stop in the draft. And that's alluding to what you were talking about. But I think it's also Howie setting the stage for the fans, being like, hey, I know you love a lot of these players. We're not going to be able to keep most of them. Like, I think
Yeah.
Saquon's back. I would be surprised if they keep any of the other three. I know you said the Becton market.
I think Becton is like
possible.
truly 50-50.
It's possible. But the
Yeah.
point is, I think Howie's saying, hey, listen, and look, I like this whole like how he's a magician and all stuff. He is, but he still has to work within the confines of the rules. Like at a certain point, like it's not like how he can create something out of nothing forever. At a certain point, you have to say, like, all right, this is all we can afford. And I think Howie's letting us know that, like, yes, he's great at his job. Yes, he can do special things, but like, don't expect him to go out and like make this like we just had a perfect roster. We just had a like you've said, like I think we might see it because we didn't expect to see that, but like there's a chance we never see a more talented Eagles team than that achieves what it achieved. Like it was that great. And I think Howie's saying, like, look, we're gonna make moves, we're gonna do stuff, but like you guys got to be patient and you got to buckle up because it might not be what everyone wants us to do. Well, and I think the young guys are going to play more and there's all that stuff,
I do think another element to this too is, and I think how you phrase it is correct. Like even if they wanted to bring back all four guys, they just realized they can't. But the other thing I think too that we need to maybe look at in a different way is like they probably view it as, look, do they like Josh Sweat? Yes, they like Josh Sweat. But would they rather have like a rookie and like a loaded defensive line class and a third round pick plus maybe like a cheaper veteran or Josh Sweat? Like there is also like reasoning just to think it is not worth them paying Josh Sweat even if they had the money. Milton Williams, we've talked about it at length. I think he checks every box. I'd be in on paying Milton Williams. But if they're sitting there and going, there's a defensive tackle at 32 that that they project to be there at 32 that we think can do what Milton Williams does. So you get him on a rookie deal, plus you get you save the money of not paying Milton, and you get the comp pick. Like I think they are looking at this not just that the resources are somewhat limited, but also like what is best for the long-term future of this team. And the other thing that Howie brought up, and I think is like noteworthy, is next year, so like the following offseason, they're going to have to pay Jalen Carter and potentially Nolan Smith, who could cost a lot. The year after that.
And then to off season after that, and then they got Cooper DeJean coming up.
And Quinn Mitchell,
all these guys, it's
correct,
like you have these good drafts. Cam Jurgens probably going to get paid this off season. Like there's all like, those guys. They like, have to plan out and project out and say, all right, this is what this is probably going to cost. How do we like it's a mosaic, there's so many different pieces to this thing that I think you're dead on with that. I will say the one other thing, though, I think to add to it too is that, I mean, we keep talking about the run that Howie's had basically since the Hurts pick with the first 2 rounds and really the third with Milton Williams and Jalen Hunt and stuff like that. But also part of that is that, and we've talked about this, that this Eagles coaching staff has done a great job of taking these talented players and developing them, coaching them, turning them into the draft, what you dream of them in the draft, turning them into those players. Like there's so many talented players who don't succeed in the NFL because they don't get the development. They go to the wrong spot, whatever it is. The Eagles have shown that they get defensive linemen. We've done it. We've seen over these few years, Milton Williams, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, all with this group develop. So if you're talking Milton Williams, who's a 3rd-round pick, what they've turned him into, why wouldn't they believe that they could take someone at 32 who is a better prospect than Milton Williams coming out, and that they could turn him into something like Milton Williams or better?
Well, and that's why I think, I know the one, like they're actively trying to re-sign Zach Bond. So like,
there have been so many reports about that. I'm assuming you've heard the same thing.
Yeah, he's the one I think they're targeting of the 4. But outside of that,
as they should, we all agree, both the price and the player. That's the guy we most want back.
But I also think
most people,
when you talk about like it being a mosaic or like however you want to paint it, which I don't literally mean painting it, but however you want to analogy you want to use.
What if Howie did it with paint? What if Howie is like his years out?
It would not shock me. Yeah. But I think too, when you talk about replacing Milton, when you talk about letting Milton Williams go, it is easier, I think, to find a Milton Williams replacement just because of the strength of the draft. You have Jalen Carter next to him. But it is, I think, harder in a way to find an instant impact Zach Bond. Like the Milton Williams replacement has some time next year to develop and be ready. The Josh Sweat replacement is more important than the Milton Williams replacement. But again, a strong draft class, who knows?
You have Jalen Hunt, Nolan Smith. You have guys who could play there right away.
They don't have anybody.
No, it's a great point. Especially Nakobe. Let's not it is unlikely Nakobe Dean will be ready to start the season next year. And there's a world where Nakobe Dean just doesn't contribute much next year because of the injury, and it takes him into the start of the season and all that.
And I agree with that 100%. But Nakobe is not Zach Bond, So
that is too exactly. Yeah, Bond's.
Yeah, it's
what
two
was
different
player
roles.
Of the year, and then also what they ask of Zach Bond.
Yes,
totally what they ask of him. I totally agree.
And look, the body type,
and even outside of that, just I thought watching Mic'd Up, because we haven't heard. You knew Zach Bond, you've talked to him in the last. We as fans had not heard a lot from him. He just kind of out there playing and doing a great job. What a leader that guy is.
Yeah.
Hearing him in the stuff with Cooper and all this stuff, it's that guy understands football at a high level, is clearly a leader. It seems like a great guy. It just seems like on every checklist, and they care about that stuff, obviously, as we know here. So I feel like he just hits every mark, including, again, important position that they have no other option at.
Well, because also, they're not going to look at it this way, but part of it is, or I should say, they're not going to look at it completely this way. But week 1, if you don't have Zach Bond, it's going to be really hard to find somebody to be that good that quickly week 1. He knows the defense. He's been here, all those things. You can survive the first 6 weeks while the Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and they have Tyler Steen at guard. So I look at it, and they probably view this offseason as and he brought it up again. Moro Jamo is going to play more. Jalen Hunt is going to play more.
Yep.
Potentially, if Nakobe's not ready, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is going to play more. If Slay is gone, and I think he will be, then Keely Ringo is going to play more. So it will be younger guys. I just think with Bond, he's the one that they don't have a natural replacement for. So, but the other thing too, to kind of circle all the way back. So after Howie said the thing about it's going to look different, I mean, it caught my attention. So I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And I knew he wasn't going to give me the layout. And to be honest, he didn't super answer it. He did say maybe he phrased it a little poorly with the it'll look different. But I also think what it does mean is there's probably going to be moves we're not expecting. Normally it's easy to project the Eagles offseason on who's going to be back, who's not. I think there could be guys that go, Dallas Goedert potentially is a guy that maybe.
That was it's what I said on the morning show. That was my first thought when I read that quote, was a guy like Dallas Goedert, where it's you expect that quote, fans just expect that Dallas Goedert will be the Eagles tight end next year.
Yeah.
Maybe he won't. That was the first name that popped my mind when I read that, is when he said it might not look the way you expect it to. That was what hit me. Something oh, maybe someone like Goddard who, again, to the conversation we just had about having to pay Jalen Carter, about having to pay Nolan Smith, about having to pay down the road, pay Cooper, who's a second-round pick, not a first-round pick. Let's not forget. You have to pay Cooper a year before you have to pay Quinyon Mitchell.
100%.
Like, there's all this stuff that a guy like Dallas Goedert, who has 1 year left on his deal and is going to want to get paid, is almost definitely not going to be an Eagle after next season. So the question is, like, why wouldn't you try and go get something for him?
Well,
it makes so much sense.
Yeah, now I haven't dove into the tight end position as much in this draft. It is, I believe it's viewed as a strong tight end draft. Like, we'll talk about that more as we get closer to the draft. But the Goddard part of it is, I believe he has no more guaranteed money left in his deal. So when you say, like, excuse me, a year from now he won't be back, I think
really now he's looking for a contract. Now is the point. Like,
he's essentially
going
a
to
free
the
agent.
Eagles and saying, "Pay me,"
or cut me. Because
one or the other.
Yeah, because if they're not going to pay him, if he hits free agency when it begins, he will be one of the top players available in free agency. So the Goddard situation has to be decided like right now. So I think when he talks about like conventional wisdom, I don't think many people, now we've talked about it, but I don't think many people on WIP, like when I listen, bring up the Goddard thing a ton. That is one part of it where I just think there's, there is going to be moves we're not expecting, but I think he means that more as like a, not in a, oh, that's exciting, they traded for this guy way. It's going to be like a, whoa, I didn't think that guy would leave type of thing.
All right, I want to get to the tush push Myles Garrett first. Any other takeaways on this type of stuff from Nick and Howie and what you heard, whether it's player movement, the way they're going to approach the season, stuff like that?
Not really. I feel like we hit on all of it, like the cap space stuff, setting expectation. We're not getting into Myles Garrett or Patullo. We could talk. I mean, I feel like no one cares about Patullo anymore.
Well, we talked about Patullo.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's just funny. Yeah, no, it's just funny. Like going into it yesterday, I thought
everyone's like, oh, Patullo. Yeah, that was actually my number one question I want to ask is why didn't you interview my guys? So it does seem like Nick's saying they interviewed more guys than was public. I guess that's the one.
So I'm not 100% clear on the rule. I believe that the rule is loosely when you are hiring a coordinator, you have to interview 2 minority candidates outside of the organization. So they did interview guys outside of the organization. But they were never going to hire anybody but Kevin Patullo, in my opinion. I think they would have to been super blown away by somebody, which you never know, could have happened. But yeah, in terms of team building stuff, no, I feel like it's going to be, I just think there's going to be a month where we're all sitting here like, what's going on? But ultimately, because of Howie, and the last thing I would say on it is, I just don't know if Howie has it in him to sit it out. Like, he can say whatever he wants, but it's one thing to say it.
This trade's on the table. I haven't done anything in a month. Yeah.
And Jeffrey. Like, I think it's harder than people think for Jeffrey just to sit it out. So I think there will be times where we're all like, what's going on? But they're the Eagles. So at the end of the day, they will do things.
Well, and to that last thing you said, I think at the end of the day, and look, he's not infallible, but what more does Howie Roseman have to do to earn our trust in a situation like this?
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
I trust that Howie's going to figure this out. And he might not, but you know what? I'm going to trust him until he does it,
Well, and they already have a very talented roster. So when we're talking,
yeah. I mean, again, 11, 10, other than Mekhi Becton, the whole starting offense is back. They're all signed.
Yeah,
now the Dallas Goedert thing could change, but they're all signed is the point, So I'm with you. All right. I want to get to Myles Garrett. I want to get to the tush push first. I mean, listen to this lineup. Listen to this. Mike Quick, Seth Joyner should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jody Mack should be in the Radio Hall of Fame. Mark Zumoff should be in the Announcing Hall of Fame. Rob Ellis, another Radio Hall of Famer. Joe Conklin, as talented as they come. And us, somehow.
And us.
Jame Seltzer.
Us.
We're the BetParks lineup. What a lineup it is, and reminding you that even if your team doesn't score, ours did. We don't have to worry about that. But there's always another way to win with the BetParks official casino and sportsbook app. Now, here's the thing. It's the only app we use. It's the only one we recommend. You can bet on sports. We know that, right? We're all about our soccer betting. We'll get to that as the offseason happens. We love basketball betting once the playoffs come around. Maybe Philadelphia won't be involved, but we'll
not be involved. Yeah.
No, but we'll
fun
bet
time
on all
to bet
that.
against them.
Look, we got a little tournament coming up in March that we like to bet on. That'll be fun. We got all kinds of fun stuff coming up in the bet. But here's the beautiful thing. Even without sports, you got a casino right in the palm of your hand.
Yes.
Blackjack, craps, roulette.
Baccarat. Baccarat. Baccarat.
I feel like I should be able to get it. What is it?
Wait, hold on. Baka baka ride, baka baka ride, baka baka ride,
Rise,
baka baka
coming me
ride,
home.
ride,
Da, da,
baka
da,
baka
da, da,
ride, baka baka
da. I know, is
ride,
that Blink
baka
182
baka
or
ride.
something like
There
that?
you go. Yeah, you got it. Good one.
Nice. Look
There
at
we
that.
go.
That's a good
I
one.
think
Well
you're
done.
two. Thank you. You're 2 for 2.
I'm not too bad. I like
Here's
it.
the
All
good
right.
news is I'll do all very basic huge hits.
I love
So,
it. That's
yeah.
perfect. That's perfect. Until you do a song like by someone new that I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a beautiful thing. You can play all these games, make money. Plus, you also got online slot games like Squid Game, Breaking Bad, Peaky Blinders, Ted, based on your favorite streaming shows and movies. Here's a great deal. New users, if you download the BetParks online casino app right now, sign up. You get up to $1,000 in casino bonus back if you're down the first 24 hours. $1,000. Casino bonus must be wagered. See betparks.com for the details. You must be 21 in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Elliot, I know you're in Indy, so you don't know this, but let me tell you, it's still cold. It's starting to get a little less cold, but it's still
It's
cold.
kind of warm here
Yes.
to be. Oh, yeah. I forgot where
No
you were
big
going
deal.
with this.
No
Sorry.
big deal.
Yeah, my bad.
But
yeah.
here's the thing. It's important, the
Yes.
cold weather and all that, because you got to make sure your home is properly installed and insulated windows. And we trust Window Nation because they are so good at what they do. Elliot's going to tell you some of the reasons for that. But we've been a partner with Window Nation for a while now, over a year now. And I'm just always so impressed with the way they go about their business, the people who work there, the things we hear from customers. It's just a top-notch company.
Well, and also, like, they're Eagles fans.
Yeah.
like they
Yeah,
do. They're partnered with Jalen Hurts. But
yeah, if it's good enough for Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl
Exactly.
MVP Jalen Hurts.
But if you want more reasons to trust Window Nation, they have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. I feel like they don't hand out A+ ratings often. I feel like I see
again,
A sometimes,
you can't do better.
maybe a B.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they have over 20,000 5-star reviews. As somebody that wishes he had over 20,000 5-star reviews, I am jealous of that. So yes, I mean, A+ better, A+ rating, 20,000 5-star reviews. What more would you want?
Well, here's the deal. It's February, so you've already missed Groundhog Day, you've missed President's Day, you've missed Valentine's Day.
By
You
a mile.
shouldn't miss your opportunity to get 60% off all windows and pay nothing for 2 years only from Window Nation. Do it now. Couple days left of the month.
February is a short month, and if you haven't looked at your calendar, it ends on February 28th. I believe that's Friday. So you're pushing it right now.
That's why I said get in it now. Do it.
Payday. Which
That's
coincidentally is the last day you can save 60% off all window styles from Window Nation.
So if you're thinking about new windows, now is literally the time. 2 days left in the month. Window Nation's got top quality windows and 96% customer satisfaction rating. So call 866-90-NATION. That's 866-90-NATION, or visit windownation.com today. All right. Do you want to go tush, push, or Myles first? I'll get dealer's choice.
I guess tush push probably, but real quick, it was funny when you started to talk about the weather. I was like, wow, where is he going with this? Like, I'm excited to hear. I'm excited to hear what it's like in Philly. Like,
Thank God I'm here to keep us on the track.
Yeah,
all right.
Good job by you. Yeah.
I love that.
Good job
That
by
was
you.
phenomenal work by you. All right, tush push. So it seems like it's obviously been a topic of discussion there in Indy.
Well,
look, I've been very pro tush push. I think it's nonsense. I think it's like the whole like skill thing. It's like only one team can execute it. The whole like it doesn't look like football. It's 3 plays a game, 2 plays a game, 4
and it
plays a
just
game.
looks like a quarterback sneak.
And it looks exactly like a quarterback. It's all not like I've heard not one good reason for getting rid of this other than teams can't stop it and they don't like it when the Eagles do it. I thought Nick gave it a really strong endorsement of the tush push, basically talking about how hard they work it, how much they practice it, all that stuff. What are you hearing? What's your whole thing with the tush push out in Indy right now?
Man, I have so many thoughts on this. I don't know where to begin. I guess the first thing I'll say, and I very rarely like play this card or wear this hat, but I just honestly think if the Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl, this wouldn't be happening. Like if they lose to the Packers, I don't think anybody is talking about the tush push. I also just honestly wonder if like the NFL wanted something to talk about during the combine. Because like it's so silly to me that all of a sudden this is popping back up. Like it's not like, yes, they ran the tush push in the playoffs. And I know there was that one incident with Washington, but they've been running it for 3 years. Like, and they tried 2 years ago to do this. You notice after 2022, there was very little talk of banishing the tush push.
Well, you mean after 2023? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, after 2020. Like,
yeah, totally.
I think there's,
no, it's a great point.
There's
the 2 times the Eagles have gone to the Super Bowl, it becomes an issue.
It's been a huge deal. But the year where they lost, no one really cared about the tush push. So
why is that?
Like, I'm not a big, like, the NFL's targeting the, I don't know how else.
NFL's targeting the Eagles, or maybe not other teams are targeting the Eagles, whatever it is, but the Eagles are, There is no other reason to get rid of this other than the Eagles run it great. That's it.
It's also it's just dumb. Like, I mean, they don't even convert it 100% of the time. And I did think, like, first of all, all right. So actually, I thought of this. I thought of this line, and I've wanted to say it on the air, but I haven't said it, and I'm curious what you feel about it. I think the new way I'm going to
Test
describe this
driving it
is,
here. I get
you
it.
like
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, a little
It's
test
not
drive.
okay. Ready? It's not the push. It's the tush. Like everybody thinks it's the push. That's not what makes the play great. What makes the
It's
play great,
Jalen being
it's
Jalen.
Jalen being really strong. It's
Oh,
the
I agree. The
offensive
push
line
is the least.
executing
I
well.
agree. I
Yes, like this whole
so much overblown with
fixation.
it. There's a reason
Honestly,
other teams can't run it. You
yes,
know,
100%.
other
And
teams
like
don't have
that,
Jalen Hurts.
that's why I thought Nick giving the explanation he did, like I'm actually like happy he came out and said it. Like it's insulting, right? It's insulting to say that they are only successful at it because it's like a cheat code. Then everybody else would do it. And it's
Totally. If there
also
was no skill, everyone would convert it 100% of the time or
and
95% of the time or whatever.
yes, they work on it all the time. They came up with it. People love to ignore that, but like they came up with it, they execute it, they practice it. It's not the push. Like me and you watched it. Everyone that listening to this watches the plays. How many times have we watched this and been like, the push is what got him over? It is
Yeah.
almost always like, oh, they got that by a mile, or like it's super, super close and he doesn't get it. And like maybe in those instances, but let's
Usually
not
he's
act.
got it before they even get him to push.
That's
He's
what
like
I'm saying.
sliding
Like,
along the thing, like riding the people, and then they come and push at the end, you know?
honestly, like the tush push has more of like a marketing problem than it
Yeah.
does like a football. If it wasn't named the tush push, I don't think people would be talking about it. It's just it's so dumb to me. Like whatever, maybe it'll get banned, and I don't think it will.
I don't think it'll get banned for what it's worth.
I feel a little more like it'll get banned than I did yesterday. Like after being there and hearing every coach. Also, you want to talk about hypocrisy at its finest.
Sean McDermott.
Sean McDermott.
What
like,
the most hypocrisy. Like, I can't even like talking out both sides of your mouth. Like you
honestly,
ran the play, dude. Like,
if I was the
play.
If I was the NFLPA, I would be like, so let me get this straight, Sean. You think the play is so dangerous, it should be banned, and you ran it the second most in the NFL. Like, what are we talking about here?
It's
like
nonsense.
you don't
so
think
annoying. I'm so out on Sean.
I think he is such
he's a bad coach.
a loser.
He's a
dude.
loser coach.
I agree.
He's not a bad coach. That's unfair. He's a good regular season coach. He sucks in the playoffs. Like he is.
He's an average. He's an average coach. I think.
Yeah.
He's an average coach. But regardless, like nobody can give a good reason other than they just don't like it. Like that's the whole thing.
And the
like,
Eagles are good at it.
There's no evidence. There's also
the injury thing. Like how many guys?
There's
we
no
watch
evidence.
Eagles run it forever. Has anyone gotten hurt? No, never. Like it's nonsense.
I think there's.
Where's the data?
Think there's been one injury. Well, there is no data. That's the problem.
Exactly.
It literally is just like a vibe thing, and that's why I think that it's because the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Like that is it. That is why this is being discussed. Wasn't discussed in 2022 at like, you know what I mean? But regardless, like I don't think it'll get banned, but it's just dumb. And also back to my initial point, I just wonder if the combine needed something to talk about. Like there's no other big story. There's Myles Garrett, like that's kind of it. But like I was here. I mean, I've been here. I can't believe. I feel like everybody's being like tricked like sheep. I can't believe everybody is like talking about this. Like, what are we doing here? It's a dumb play. They run it. I shouldn't say that. It is a somewhat meaningless play that is similar.
It's a meaningful play, but I know what you mean.
But no, I just mean like quarterback sneaks happen. It's not like they've invented a way where, you know, the running back is like throw it. Like it is not worth the attention it gets. I guess is the best way to phrase it. I don't think the fixation on this play is as big of a deal as the play itself. And
I
honestly,
agree. Look, if
they ban it, they'll be fine. If they ban it, they'll be fine.
I think they'll be better at QB sneaks than other teams, but I think it would hurt them marginally if they banned it. I think if it were a play where everyone converted it all the time, like 32 teams run it and they're 94% success rate or whatever, then I get the discussion. Okay, like this is taking the drama out of short yardage situations in football. Then we can talk about like the aesthetic part of it. Then it's like, oh, well, maybe that, but it's not. It's one team that runs it successfully. It's so crazy. It is so targeted. I'm with you. All right, let's get to the Myles Garrett stuff. Because you're there, you're hearing it. You know, we talked about how he's not gonna do much, and then of course he would go trade for Myles Garrett. Where are you at with the whole your opinion? Because we haven't really talked a ton about our opinions on whether they should trade for Myles Garrett, but then also the realistic viability of them actually trading for Myles Garrett. Where are you at with it, and what are you hearing while you're out there?
So I think they're definitely going to try. Like that's definitely the vibe I get. I don't hear a lot of
For what
like,
it's
no,
worth,
they're
I've heard the same thing.
yeah, like I don't think they're going to try
They're
it
in
now.
on Myles Garrett.
Yeah, and like of course they are, but I view it as this. Like I think Myles Garrett is being traded. I do not think that the Browns are going to keep Myles Garrett. So once he is traded, there's only really a handful of teams that make sense because Myles is only going to sign an extension with a place he thinks he can win. For he's not going to go to like I don't know the
Jacksonville.
Jag. Yeah, it's funny we both picked the Jags. Yeah, like he's not going to go to that team just to get a check. Like he'll get paid, but he wants to go somewhere he can win. I do also think the Washington thing is real. Like Washington has all the incentive in the world to go get him. They have the money. And I think if you're the Eagles, that has to matter a little bit. So I think they'll be in on him. Now, again, how he did set the expectation of like, where he said in the off the podium thing that, when you trade a first round pick for, and he wasn't talking about Myles specifically, but he was saying when you trade a first round pick for a guy, it has to be the timing is right. And he essentially said the timing's not right. I just don't believe him. I think if Myles decides, like, hey, I want to go to the Eagles or Washington, what are you going to tell me? How he's going to sit there and be like, no, now's not the time? I don't see it. He's a premium position and he's a great player. Now, the question is, like, would you do it and how much would you give up? Because obviously, if it was like a second round pick, we would both do it. Like, no question about it, right? I mean, do you want to go first? Like, I have a bit of a more nuanced thought on this, but I'm curious where you're at.
I mean, it's all about what it would cost, and what it would cost to sign him, and how much does he really want to win, and all those types of
Yeah,
things. But like, look, I'm not going to
I do
turn
think he
down
really wants to win.
Myles Garrett.
Yeah,
If he's willing, if you can get him, like in a vacuum, I would give up 2-1s for Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? I don't know that it would take that. I think it probably should take that, but like in a vacuum, forgetting everything else, I would trade 2-1s for Myles Garrett, and I would pay it. That's probably my
yeah.
my line. You know.
So,
But yes, I would trade for Myles Garrett. He is that great a player. He's 28, 29. I don't think he's like over the hill or anything. But
I agree.
I also don't think the Eagles, like, I wouldn't go crazy. Like, I don't think the Eagles have to trade for Myles Garrett. I think they can win the Super Bowl without trading for Myles Garrett. But if there's an opportunity to get Myles Garrett, and it's something with like AJ Brown where it's like, wow, like that should probably cost more than it does. Like, yeah, I would jump in.
So, I think if it's one first round pick in a big contract, I'd have a hard time saying no. Like they're picking 32, which
I
I
don't
mean
think
does
there's
make
any way it's just one first round pick in a big. I know that the
I
contract complicates it, but like I think there's no way it's that little. I mean,
I
what
think it
Jalen
but
Ramsey was 2 firsts, and he got a contract. Like I think it'll be like closer to 2 firsts than 1 first.
I think it'll be like a first and a 3 or like something where the first and a 3 and the 3 can become a 2. Like
I think it'll
I
be 2
don't
firsts. My
You
prediction.
do? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I could be wrong. I'm not always the best at judging this stuff. But like I do, regardless, where I sit on it is I get it. It's Myles Garrett. And if I was Howie, I would not be brave enough to say no to Myles Garrett. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of simple. Like you get a chance to acquire Myles Garrett, you do it. But there's also a part of me that is a little like they're awesome at drafting now.
Yeah.
It's a strong defensive line class. Their defense is loaded. Their roster is loaded. I think Myles would be a good culture fit guy. Like from everything you hear
Luxury in
about
a
him in
way, if
Cleveland.
you could say that about Myles Garrett.
Well, and I think another benefit of Myles would be he is a distraction from having just won the Super Bowl. Like
So he's the
Saquon,
guy coming in who's desperate to win the Super Bowl and pushes everything and like
right?
potentially, and like,
Well,
oh, let's win it, for him.
and I think one thing Saquon brought that you heard in that mic'd up was like he changed the culture there. And like I think he was a big shiny distraction from the collapse in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, you need to avoid the collapse more than you do winning the Super Bowl. So there's a difference. I think a benefit of Myles would be he just adds another huge star where it feels a bit like a different team, like there's a freshness. So ultimately, I would do it. But I also see the logic for not doing it. Like it's a lot of money. It's maybe 2 firsts if you're correct, or at the very least, it's a first and a third. Now, I mean, you could also say like you're gonna have to pay those guys eventually. I would do it. I think they will try to do it. I would put the chances Myles Garrett gets to the Eagles at like 30%.
Yeah, I would probably go 20%, but I agree with you. Like I think
Yeah,
they're
like
in on it.
somewhere
I think,
around there.
yeah. All right. I
Yeah.
feel okay about it.
Now, would you trade Nolan Smith in a first? I know you guys were talking about that.
Yes, I would. I mean,
I
Nolan
think I
Smith has
would.
to get paid soon. Like it's a similar
Yeah,
idea.
I think I would too. And this is maybe where like the emotional part of it comes in of like you feel attached to a
I
certain
love
team.
Nolan. Yeah,
They
guy,
just have
he won
such a
me a
good
Super
thing
Bowl.
going. He's such a good part of the culture. Like, I don't know. I would do it, but it's a big time move. Like if they do it, it is like a big time decision. And I don't know if this team needs like a big time switch, but I don't
I
know. I
don't
mean, too.
disagree. I don't.
But
That's
also you
again.
got to change
I'm.
up after a Super Bowl. Like,
Yeah,
so there's that parts of it too.
I'm torn on it. I'm torn on it. But
Which is crazy to
um,
think because it is Myles Garrett.
it's Myles Garrett. It's like almost like to your point. It's like just go get Myles Garrett. It's Myles Garrett.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 All right. Let's get to final thoughts.
All right. I feel like I have a bunch of good ones. Let me pull it up really
Look
quick.
at you.
I know. I
Spouting
feel
off
good
it,
about where it's
popping
at.
off about his good ones. Well, we do have 3
Okay.
to do in the next 2 days. If you're
Yeah.
watching the YouTube, don't go anywhere. Bet Parks Picks pod coming up, and then another pod tomorrow. We're getting BLG in, so tune in
Yes.
for that
Very
as well.
excited. All right. So
Bonus pod.
I have so many good ones. I don't even know where to begin.
Look
Okay.
at you. That's what I have a lot of Zoe stuff, so I feel
Okay.
similarly, but only about the Zoe stuff.
All right. I'll go with this one because I think the next one's better for BLG. Okay. I think like, all right. So obviously I've been traveling a lot recently. And so as part of that, you pack and you're like, do I have everything? I kind of think the days of forgetting things are kind of over. Like my license would be hard to forget. But like if I forget my wallet, like I can get all my cards on my phone to an extension, right? Like if I forget my charger, like there are chargers available everywhere. Like I'm not saying there are obviously things you could forget, but I feel like maybe back in the day, forgetting something was like a much more like impactful thing.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But I think
But
now because of the digital part of it, now your phone, that would suck. But like
yeah, I think there are things you like if you forget your medication, that's a problem. Like there are
that would be
things
one
that
too.
I think there are things that if you forget them, it still could be a problem. But I get your point. I think for the whole, it's much easier to replace
It's
things
much
that
easier to
weren't replaced.
obtain things
Like
than
one
it
thing if you
used to
forget
be.
clothes back in the day, it's like okay, I buy more clothes. That's always been the
Right.
case. But you're
Yeah.
right. Like if you forget your phone, or gets your phone beats up. But if you have your computer, you can still make it work. If you forget your computer
Right.
with your phone, you can make it work. Forget your wallet, you can make it work on your phone. Like there are a lot more options to replace things that you couldn't replace prior.
Right. Like I always check I have my iPad and my recording stuff. But honestly, if I didn't have it, like I could do the pod on my phone. So I don't know. It's just like but it was
I get
funny.
it.
I was going to tweet it out and then I was like, that feels like bad luck. And maybe I'll forget something now on my way home and I'll regret this.
I don't know if it's worth tweeting as much either. I think it's a
I'm
better
not.
final
Yeah.
thought than,
I agree. I'm not going to tweet it, but
it's not a very friendly place. People are like, yeah, no duh, idiot.
Yeah. I feel like the days of forgetting things somewhat over.
Yeah. I mean, literally
not
not.
over. Yeah. Not
literally.
literally.
I mean, you can still actually forget it, but I get your point. The days
Yeah.
of forgetting things mattering the way they did are over.
Yes.
That's probably the better way to phrase it.
Yes.
Okay. A final thought in Zoe is my final thought is a minor one. It's more of a clarification because we have 3 to go the next few days. So, but I said once that I couldn't write a book on the pod, and you were like surprised by it. And I was like, yeah, I want to clarify because I could write a book if it were about sports or something. What I was trying to say is I could not write a fiction book. Like I don't have those stories inside me where I can be like, let me tell you let me world build. Let me build a world and take you there and tell you a story about whatever it might be. That I can.
I mean, I disagree with you. I disagree with you on that, though.
You're like, believing me, man. I love you.
I'm just saying, like, how much time have you ever put into trying to think of a story?
Zero.
For a book?
Zero.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're saying, like,
I
yes,
do
I
have
agree.
a really good ending for like a mystery book. I have a really cool idea.
There
for
you go.
ending.
So you already have a
the
book.
story
Yeah.
before.
Now, obviously, I think writing a fiction book is way harder than writing a biography.
Yes.
Like clearly.
Yes.
But I think if you took a month, you could easily like put something together. I'm not saying
maybe. I've never tried to think of a story
exactly. I feel
creativity like that. So.
People always say this, like, I can't do this thing. Well, it's like, how long have you tried at it? Like,
your belief in me is so. I really appreciate it.
I believe in myself too. So.
Oh, I know. Well, it was funny because this is not. Zoe was listing her order of people that she loved the most because she was like, "Do you love me the most?" I was like, "Yeah, you and Mom. I love you the most."
Yeah.
Everyone. And she's like, "Here's my list," and she goes, "Number 1, me." Because of course I gotta love myself, and I was like,
I mean, there you go. I love it. I love it. That's the way you
gotta. It's like, all right, let's go work by you. I was like, you're ahead of me for me, but that's fine.
Yeah,
we'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right. Let me give a Zoe's. I have so many good Zoe's. I'll give all right. So this is something, and I'll save some for Brandon because I know he loves this stuff. I'll give a quick one. I'll save some. I'll give one next pod, but I'll give the littler ones. This is just so Zoe has a nightgown that says "Morning Gorgeous," like
Nice.
"Morning Gorgeous" on it.
Yeah.
Zoe goes, "Dad, where's my nightgown? My Morning Gorgeous nightgown." And I'm like, "I don't know." She goes, "I'm gorgeous."
There you go. She doesn't even need the nightgown to say it. It's
no,
confirmed.
she's the point. Is the Morning Gorgeous? She's the gorgeous on the more. She wanted me to know.
I'm
the gorgeous.
There you go.
Nightgown, Morning Gorgeous. I'm gorgeous.
Like, I love the the self-belief and confidence.
Yeah.
It's a good way to live life.
Yeah.
It's a good way to live life.
More Zoeisms coming next pod, which is going to happen right now, unless you're listening. Unless if you are with us on the
we're gonna
YouTube
keep it
stream,
going.
we're gonna keep it going. Otherwise, tune into the next pod, which will be out soon. Okay. Until then, he's Eliot James. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. It's the Bet Parks Picks Pod. Elliot in Indy.
Here we go.
How are you? Long time no speak.
I know, it's been forever. So you can tell by my voice that it's definitely been 24 hours and we're not recording it this time. I actually have.
There will be a pod being recorded in 24 hours. Tune in for that.
There will be, yes. Yep. All right, so I actually have a gambling question for you in relation to what's
I love this.
going
And we
on.
are going to get into AFC odds. We've done the NFC odds. We'll get into some AFC odds coming up, but you know.
So one thing we didn't talk about that I think is gambling related, because everything is gambling related.
Tangential.
But yes.
I love that word. Tangential. All
it is a good word. It is.
Word.
Like Saquon over-unders next year. I'll be very curious to see.
This is a great question. Wherever you're heading with this, I'm super interested.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to see what they come in at. So yesterday, Nick was asked by a Philly reporter about Saquon next year and how the numbers show that once you rush for a certain amount of yards or a certain amount of touches or whatever,
it's touches.
It's touches. Yeah. The next year, it's really, really hard to do that again. And Nick gave the answer he mostly gives every week when he's asked about touches, which is we're going to do what it takes to win the game. You know, it is what it is. I'm curious for your perspective on two things, and we can talk about them separately or whatever. One, do you think they're going to use Saquon less next year? Like they're going to make a concerted effort to use him less next year? And
yes.
Two, okay, well, two then, and you can expound on that. What do you think Saquon's total yards over under should be next year? Because on one hand,
question.
You look at it and you go he had what, 2,300 yards, 2,400 yards, including the playoffs this year. I know
25.
I know it doesn't include that, but
74, 25, 20, whatever it was. Yeah, that number.
Well, actually, if you include receiving yards, he probably did have over 2,300.
Yeah, I was just talking the rushing yards.
Yeah. So
he was 2,800, I think, total, somewhere in that general,
including playoffs. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're setting the line for Saquon over under next year, what do you set it at? Because on one hand, I think there's a real world where if we're including total yards in the regular season, you're looking at over 1,800 yards. If you include rushing, receiving, if he stays healthy, I mean, they're loaded again. But there's the other world where you could tell me under 900 might not be a bad bet.
Well, they won't set it there, but I agree with you because of injury. Let's put it this way. I think whatever the under is the smart bet. I wouldn't bet it because I wouldn't bet against Saquon. But I think that just from a betting perspective, whatever number they put up there, the smart bet is to take the under. To your point, the number, once they hit a certain number of touches, and Saquon far exceeded that number that they talk about for the year after stuff. The history in the NFL is not kind. It is very unkind to running backs the year after they have a certain amount of touches. And I know Saquon is Saquon and he's touched by God and all that stuff, but he's also a guy, let's not forget that before he came to the Eagles, we didn't even know if he had this in him. We didn't know if Saquon would look this good again because of the injuries he's already suffered in his career, So it's not like he hasn't dealt with this stuff before. I think that, and I, hopeful, but I think you should bet the under on games. You should bet the under on yards. I think expecting Saquon to carry a heavy load for 17 more games and the playoffs next year I don't want to say it's impossible.
It's
exactly.
Unfair.
I think it's unfair to expect that because history says, and Saquon's life and career to this point say, it is incredibly unlikely.
And the Eagles know this. It's not like they're blind to it. I mean, they have every stat and trend in the world, let alone one everyone's talking about. So I do think when it comes to Saquon next year, first from a non-gambling perspective, I think they have to like have a plan B in place there. Like,
Mhm.
or I should rephrase that. I think their plan A cannot be Saquon next year.
Yeah,
That
I think they
obviously
have
he's
to
the
be a better
starting running
passing
back.
offense. I think they
Yeah,
go
they're
into the
gonna have
year
to
saying,
throw it more.
"Look, Jalen's a Super
100%.
Bowl MVP. We got these dudes. Like, we are going to throw more than we did last season."
I also think there's a real world where maybe
Will
the first
Shipley?
four, well, that's where I was going, but also like maybe the first 4 weeks of the season, you're just like, guess what, Saquon? You're not touching it more than 15 times. And
Yeah,
like,
I agree. I think they have to be. And again, I know they have to win games, but like you have to be smart about it. You have to be smart about how you
yeah,
manage this guy. Again, especially if we're talking about repeating, like then we're talking about a guy who played into the middle of February, ratcheting it back up in June or whatever, July, and then going all the way to February again. Like
yeah.
that's a lot, man.
You're talking about 40 games in 2 years, right? That's like, is that almost 3 regular
Yeah,
seasons?
no,
No,
that's
it's
no,
not.
it'd be
It's not. But
41 game, it'd be 42 games because he plays 17. I mean, it depends on if they get a bye, but this
yeah,
year
well, he didn't play
he played
17, but yeah.
21 games this. Oh yeah, I forgot they said it
Right,
was.
right, right.
So he
Yeah,
played
yeah.
20.
But
So yeah, it'd be 40 or 41 theoretically,
however you want to view it. Right. So it's a
or
lot of
less if they get a
football.
bye and he sits. But either way, the play's
And
close to 40.
And you've brought this up, and I think it was proven true last year. Like the first month of the season just might not matter a ton, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you're like, look, I get Saquon's going to want yards, and you want to win, and you would rather start 4-0 than 2-2. I get all that, but like maybe they just have to decide the first month of the season. Sorry, Saquon, it's going to be a lot more Will Shipley. And the other part of this too is, do you bring in another running back? Like, do you bring in a veteran guy that you think, if
Well,
God forbid Saquon,
do you think they're gonna resign Kenny? I think is the first and foremost question with that because
yeah, I
they
don't
like
know. Like, I don't
Kenny.
know what
I
his
don't think he
market's
gets a
going to
ton of
be.
yeah. If he doesn't get a bunch of money, excuse me, on the market, like then I mean, I could see them bringing Kenny back and having Shipley and Kenny and whatever, as a
Yeah.
veteran guy.
Or like, do you use a fourth round pick on a running back? Like,
Maybe.
I think that there's a world where they need to prepare for way less Saquon next year. And that also goes to the passing game. And we didn't talk about the Kevin Patullo thing really much yet, but like one thing Nick really hammered home was consistency, consistency, consistency. I didn't love that answer for reasons we've talked about, but
Mhm.
like, so I think there needs to be changes, and that has to begin with Saquon touching it less. So from that perspective, from an offense, like a NFL, that was a bad word to use. From the Eagles' perspective, like on the field, I think they need to change it. But from a gambling perspective, like what would you put a good number of yards from Saquon next year? Like if me and you were sitting here this time
Are
next
we
year and it
doing
was
total
like,
yards or just rush? I think rushing yards is probably easier
let's
to
do
do.
rushing because it's hard
Yeah.
to, yeah,
So you had
like I'm
2005 this past
like
year. Stats I was looking at.
1,600,
I
1,500.
think the number will be somewhere in that range. I think they'll bake in injury. They'll bake in the potential
Yeah.
for a bit of a bounce back, after last year and all that. I think it'll be in the 1,500 range. And again, I would take the under on whatever it is. And I know 1,500 seems low, but I
Yeah. I
just
mean, it's
think
a
the smart
500.
bet. And again, I'm
Yeah.
not betting it, but that would be the smart bet is to bet the under. Again, like it's just so unlikely. It's just really hard to do that to your body for a year and then come back and do it again. And look, say again, I think the caveat to this whole conversation is that Saquon is as talented,
Yeah.
as physically gifted, as strong in the bottom half of his body type of running back as we've ever seen in our lives. And I think you can also say, look, he doesn't have as much wear and tear on him for the first 7 years as other guys do because of the injuries and all that stuff. But it's just hard to argue with the
Well,
data.
and also, honestly, I don't really remember watching Emmett Smith a ton, so you can correct me on this. Like, I feel like Saquon, to your point, is a physical specimen freak. Like, he is like touched by God, right? Just like physically. I don't remember if Emmett Smith was viewed that way or what. I feel like he was
No,
just a good athlete, right? But I don't think it's a coincidence. And if you look at it, I think Emmett Smith is one of the few that
who
was
had a good year
able.
after. Yep.
Yeah. So like look, all great running backs that get those touches are great running backs. So I'm not saying there's like some bum out there that got 400 touches, but I don't think it's a coincidence that one of the best running backs of all time, which Emmitt Smith is, was able to do it again, and Saquon could be able to do it again. I just don't think it's something you could bank on. Like the first month, I take it easy on him, and then if you get to week like 8, 9, 10, and he's just absolutely lighting it up again, maybe you
Yeah,
just need to
roll
be
with it.
like,
You
you know
roll
what,
with
this
it.
guy's like, it is what it is.
He's a freak.
But exactly. So, but I do think like just hearing Nick talk about it yesterday, like they have to protect against that. And then from a gambling perspective, as we said, like I don't think you'll get the same type of fun gambling on Saquon this year as you did last year.
Yeah, I don't either.
Although if the tush push goes away,
Well,
maybe he gets more touchdowns.
that's literally what I was gonna say. I mean, what was it? How many times we down to one this year? It was like
Yeah, it was like
double digits,
14.
right?
I think
Yeah,
he
it's an
got
insane
tackled
number.
inside, which is a crazy thing in general,
It's
by the way.
insane. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem possible. Like I feel like I can remember like
I don't
5 or 6
remember it
times.
too.
I
Yeah.
feel a few of them, like, but I definitely don't remember double digit times.
I agree.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that it bump up the touchdowns if they eliminate the tush push, which again I don't think they'll do. But yeah, I think from a gambling perspective, without knowing the numbers that are set, heading into the season, I think you're taking the Saquon unders. I think you're taking the Jalen passing overs. I think you're taking the AJ overs. Like, I think you expect this offense to throw the football more. I really do,
Yeah.
especially if we're talking about early in the season where like I've said, and it seems like the Eagles believe, as Saquon said it, that it's more of a preseason-y type of thing. Like maybe you go out and say, all right, let's chuck it around, see how this works, see what this
Yeah.
offense can
Well,
do.
and I think the reason they need to have a backup plan to Saquon they truly believe in is that if they start the year trying to throw it again, and let's say it doesn't go well, like it did last year, like Jalen was turning it over. Last year, when it didn't go well, they just turned to Saquon. It's almost like an emergency plan. I don't think you can do like if you think coming into the year that you cannot ride Saquon the same way you did last year, you can't allow a bad throwing offense to have you abandon that plan because you're making the decision based off of like his physical body. So if that means drafting a running back that like maybe is higher than people think, like would it be that crazy to take like the second best running back in the draft in the second round? Like
Maybe,
you
maybe
think well,
a
my
little
argument would
crazy. It
be
wouldn't be the
so
craziest thing, but you just took Will Shipley last year in the 4th round.
no,
Like
I get it, yeah. But like my point for it would be Saquon, who knows what he'll be this year. There's also an unfortunate reality. Like maybe he just is never the same guy after that type of workload. That's what we talk so much about the season after. But I'd be curious how many running backs have 2,000 yards, 400 plus touches, and then have like a 4 more years after that of like solid play. So
yeah,
and we also
and he's
saw what a
already older. I
special
mean, he's just turned
yeah.
28. Like it's
And
like
we
where
saw what a
everyone's like,
special
Derrick Henry turned 30 and he's still a good running back. Couldn't you believe it? Like,
right.
think about that guy. And it is because it is crazy.
It,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So I'm not saying I would use a second round pick, but I guess my point is I would be into investing in like a special guy and having him around for a year or two. Now I know with the second round pick you want him to start, so I
yeah,
get
it's
all that.
probably not the best use of
No, I
resources.
agree, but I just mean like we've seen what a special running back can do in this offense. I think there is a world where now the Eagles should always try their best to have a special running back available,
Love it.
as
All right,
opposed to before they felt more interchangeable.
we're gonna get to the AFC odds in a sec, but Mike Quick, Seth Joyner, Jody Mack, Mark Zumoff, Rob Ellis, Joe Conklin. What a lineup. And us,
What a
Eliot
lineup.
Shorr-Parks, Jame Seltzer. We are the Bet Parks lineup. I'm reminding you that even if your team doesn't score, ours does. But there's always another way to win with the Bet Parks official sportsbook and online casino app. It's the only official app of the Go Birds Pod. It's the only one we use, the only one we recommend. In addition, obviously, to the sports, which we're going to bet on my baseball over unders coming up later this month. That'll be
Can't wait.
exciting. I know you can't. It's your
Well,
favorite.
I got 2 Phillies takes, but I also have a Harper take.
Oh, hell yeah. Can't wait for those. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
let me
keep
give it
them
to you
wholesome.
in one line. Ready? Harper
Okay.
should pick where he bats in the lineup.
Okay.
You don't have to respond. I'm just putting that out
Look.
there. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Harper
Thank you.
should pick. Harper should pick.
In addition to betting on lineup spots, among other things, you can't bet on that. But you can bet on a lot of stuff. Sports wise, you got a casino right in the palm of your hands. All kinds of great games you can play at any moment with the Bet Park Casino and Sportsbook app. You can play blackjack, craps, roulette.
Bak, baka, baccarat, 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 bak.
Bye.
There you go. There you go.
3 for 3, baby.
I
3
thought
for
that
3.
one might be a little tougher.
It was hard. I got it in
Yeah,
the chorus
yeah.
there at the end. That was good. That bak. That's what got it for me.
I'm so good at this too.
You are quite good.
I am very good
this
at
is
it.
the
Yeah.
best new creation.
I love
we've
it.
come up
Yeah,
with.
it's gonna get us through the off
I get
season.
excited to see what you're gonna do with it. So that's great
Yeah.
work. All of a sudden, you have to plan for these reads. I don't. So that's good work. But here's the thing: you can play all those games in addition. Hot online slot games like Squid Game, Breaking Bad, Peaky Blinders, Ted, based on your favorite streaming shows and movies. So many fun games. And here's a great deal for your new users: download the BetParks online casino and sportsbook app right now. You get up to $1,000. Yes, $1,000 in casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. See betparks.com for the details. You must be 21 in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Michigan, or Maryland. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, E. Ready for some sweet AFC odds?
I'm ready.
Have you looked at these? Of course not.
No.
What a ridiculous
the AFC odds, I'm good.
What a ridiculous. I can't believe I'm sorry for even thinking you might have looked at them. Yes. All right, let's go down the line. Who do you think's the favorite?
I'm going to go ahead and go with the team that's the favorite to win the Super Bowl. That should not be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, so are they the favorite over us now? This is outrageous.
I don't know. I think it was tied or whatever. When I looked, the Chiefs were ranked ahead of the Eagles.
You are correct. The Chiefs are plus 260 to win the AFC. Who do you think second?
I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills.
It is the Buffalo Bills third. The Ravens second at plus 350.
Then
the Bills at plus 400.
I am curious who's fourth because I think there's a clear top three. Like those are the three best teams.
I agree.
I think if you were
ranking the odds show this way. Just so so it's plus 260 for the Chiefs, plus 350 for the Ravens, plus 400 for the Bills. They're all from plus 260 to 400, all in that window. The next one is plus 900, then plus 1200, then plus 1500, then plus 2000. So there are gaps here.
So I think it's going to be. So I think if you were ranking quarterbacks, it would be Cincinnati, and maybe it's just that simple. I'm probably missing a team here. The Chargers? No,
it was just that simple.
It was Cincinnati. Wow,
yes,
I disagree with that. I mean, it is what it is. They're fourth, and I'm not going to.
I think Zach Taylor is an abominable coach.
Who knows what will happen with Jamar Chase? They're going to lose T. Higgins.
They have a cheap owner. Guess what? They're losing dudes, man. I'm so with you. I think that's a mistake. So after you are close, the Chargers are actually sixth. There is a team in between the Bengals and Chargers.
The Texans
at plus 1200. Because Texans, so not plus 900 for the Bengals, plus 1200 for the Texans, plus 1500 for the Chargers. Then another jump to plus 2000. The Broncos at plus 2000.
I like that.
Plus 2500 for the Steelers, the Dolphins, and then we go all the way up. The Titans last at plus 7,500. I think that's.
I clearly wouldn't bet it, but the Broncos plus 2,000.
Ellie could turn the Raiders around at plus 6,000. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Haven't seen him.
I agree with you. The Broncos theoretically could have the best defense in the NFL and a quarterback who looked good as a rookie in his second year. It wouldn't be the craziest thing ever for them to win 12 games and sneak into the Super Bowl.
Well, the last thing before we get to final thoughts, I would say is I'm a big believer now you've taught me, if a quarterback has a great season, it's hard to do it again when you're young. But I kind of think Bo Nix had the perfect amount of successes.
I agree with you.
Where actually it's more Carson 2016 to me than it is CJ
I agree. I think it's a great point. And also Bo Nix is 45 years old. It's hard to judge him against other rookie quarterbacks. It's all these things are rookie quarterbacks. I don't know if it counts for Bo Nix. All right. Any long shots here? I don't think Patriots at plus 5,000 just if Drake May is awesome. I don't see that.
Well, they have a ton of cap space.
And they have a ton of cap space. I think they're the most look, the plus 5,000 teams are the Jags, the Patriots, the Jets, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Titans. The Patriots are the only one of those that's even worth considering. I mean, the Jags, I guess if you're a Trevor Lawrence, what's his name? Liam Cohen guy, Dude,
let me tell you, the Jags GM in person is the youngest looking
human. Does he look as young as he does in a picture? Because it's
he looks younger. He looks younger.
Okay, so I always feel old with these things. Tom Brady, I'm older than Tom Brady now when he won the Super Bowl the second time. I'm right around the age, whatever. I'm getting it.
What a random thing to pick, by the way.
It's because I just saw that it was I'm the exact same age, pretty much. Okay, I just saw how old he was. He was 43 in 6 months. I'm I'm literally 20 days away from being 40. It's I just saw it, and it was a perfect kind of comparison.
Right.
But nothing in sports has made me feel older than seeing that Jags guy.
I agree.
Dude, they hired a child. That Zoe looks closer to his age than I do.
I was standing 4 feet from him yesterday. He looks like somebody that would go get me a size from the back in Abercrombie or Express or something. It was
he does have that look. He's an Abercrombie kind of guy.
Yeah, he had on joggers and a bomber jacket. Look, props to him. Talk about living your fantasy. But yeah, he's a young looking man for sure.
All right, let's get to final thoughts.
Okay, so I think the decision by The Office, the TV show, to remove the third wall and have Jim and Pam talk to the people
real quick. Just so you understand, many people have made that decision before The Office. You know that, right? This is Spinal Tap. There are things from before.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I just want you to know it wasn't innovative, and it's the fourth wall, not the third wall.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the fourth wall.
Well, where I was going with it was I think it might be one of like the worst decisions in television history. Like, I think it is so bad when they do it. And I love The Office. I think it obviously got way worse when Steve
Well,
Carell left.
so they're different things. So like for example, like that's a mockumentary. So they're not breaking the fourth wall. They're talking to a camera that is part of the actual show that they're doing. If you want to talk about
Right.
breaking the fourth wall, it's like Wayne's World when they just start talking to the camera or whatever. You know, like you're technically they're not breaking the fourth wall in The Office because they're actually talking to a person with a camera in the shot that is supposed to be there. Do you know what I
Right. I
mean?
get the
Yeah.
technicality of it, but
Yeah.
I'm saying in reality, on the TV show, they started to talk to people filming them that in theory were there the entire time. You know,
Mhm.
like so I just like I love The Office. I love to rewatch it. But when they like the scene where Pam all of a sudden starts to talk to the guy when she's crying, it's like,
Well, that's the end. You're talking about the last season
yeah,
and
well,
something. I
that's
mean,
what I
that's
mean. It's
trash.
bad. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
I don't,
that
but I mean, think about it, like without like through like Jim doesn't make his faces to the camera with it. It's the same thing as him making his faces to the camera. It's the exact same
yeah,
thing.
that's
He's
similar.
talking
I
to the
guess that's
camera with a
similar.
face, being like, "Nope, don't come near me," whatever. So like, I think you're just focused on a specific incident in the worst season of
Yeah,
the
I just
show.
think it was obviously we know that's a show that wow, it is pouring in Indy here all of a
I
sudden.
think that you're talking about when the camera guy actually became a part of the show
Yes,
that you
I
didn't
did
like
not
that.
like
Okay, so
that
it's a
decision.
slightly different thing than what you're.
I
I
thought it was
gotcha.
one of the worst. Like, talk about not handling the end of a show well.
I thought
Like,
they did that. I thought the end of that
everyone
show
ripped
was horrendous.
Seinfeld. The last season of Seinfeld is like
Oh, it's
amazing compared to
marketed.
the
Well, the
last
last
season
season of
of
Seinfeld's
Office.
great. It's just the last episode. Like the last season of Seinfeld
Yeah,
has some of the best episodes ever.
yeah.
Okay. So I will so quick thing, the quick final thought that I said earlier, I said the phrase already in the last pod. I love the phrase buckle up for like get ready. Like, hey,
It's a good
buckle
one.
up. I love it. I love it.
You
I
know what this
texted
reminds me
Tucker.
of?
I was like, go Birds, high hopes day, buckle up.
You know what it reminds me of?
Was that
It's like
just so you
that.
could tell the story here? You didn't
It was,
actually
there
want to
you
talk
go.
to me?
No, I did. I
Oh,
just
okay.
liked using. I actually me texting you "buckle up" was what made me think about using it here. So
By the way, Tucker feels like he's
thank
part of
you.
the fourth wall right now because I can't see him and he's just talking all
Oh,
this
I
stuff.
like that. Look at you.
But it reminds me of that trend on Twitter now where it's like, you know, white people say like, "We got company" when the cops come. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like your thing is like, white
I'm the
people love
white
saying,
Oh, I
"Buckle
like
up."
that.
Yeah,
That's
I
good.
feel like that's where
Okay,
we're at.
and then I'll give a Zoeism. I'll save. I have two great ones that I'll save for Brandon because I know he loves those. But Emily asked Zoe, Zoe, do you have boogie fever? Zoe goes, what's that? She goes, it means you like to dance. She's like, oh yeah, I definitely have that. So Zoe has the
There you
boogie
go.
fever.
Well,
And
she's officially, hopefully I don't have bookie fever, but yes.
yeah, oh, you don't have fever. Yeah, I
I'm
know.
kidding. Yeah.
I figured as much. All right. Tomorrow.
Yeah,
BLG. Are you back?
BLG.
You'll be here?
Yeah, I leave today. So
Oh, look at that. All right.
I'll
So
be back at
Eliot
like
back,
6. Yeah.
BLG back. Let's freaking roll. Get back safe, everybody.
Until then. Until then.